Okay, so the only paint colors you're going to need to paint your whole color wheel will be blue, red, and yellow, the primary colors, plus black and white. What I've done to prepare here, using my color worksheet for reference, I've just lightly given the initials of each color as I go around so that I don't forget and get out of order. So I just put a B for blue, and I got blue, green, green, yellow, yellow, orange, orange, red, red, violet, violet, and blue, violet. So I make sure I stay in the right sections. So then when I paint that section, whatever I start with, I'll erase that part right before I paint the shade in this bottom part. So remember, we have the tint closest to the middle, the regular color halfway out, and then the shade on the outside. So what I'd probably do, just because it's simpler, is start with the primary colors. So I'll start with yellow here. So I'm just going to start by painting the normal color in. So I'll take some yellow, and the normal color is this middle section. Okay, so then once I get my normal color painted in, I'm going to mix my tint. Now sometimes you might have enough paint left over in your brush that you might not even need to get more to make your tint. My brush is pretty dry, so I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of the white. Now always when you're taking from white, scoop from the outside and just scoop a little bit, especially if your brush has a little bit of another color on it. You don't want to scoop right in the middle of it, of the white, because that'll contaminate all of it. So I'm just scooping a little bit from the edge and making a new little pile. I'll get a little bit of yellow here and mix it in. And usually a tint, to get a really nice light tint, it takes more white than it does of the color. So always start with white first when you're making a tint. Okay, so I like that color. And I'm going to go in here for my tint section. All right, so then the last one to paint will be the shade. So for that, I'm going to rinse my brush out because I don't want the white and the black to mix together when I'm making my shade, because then that'll actually add gray to it. White and black is gray. So make sure to erase my little Y. And to make a shade of yellow, now I'm going to start with the yellow and make a little pile here. Don't need too much. And I'm going to add black to it, and I'm going to add just a little bit of black. It does not take much black to make a shade, especially when you're adding it to yellow. So I barely touch the corner of my brush in there, and even then I might take some off, because you'll see with yellow it gets dark really quickly. Okay, so pick up a little bit more of that again. And that shade of yellow isn't a pretty color. It's kind of a icky greenish color. Okay, let's see if that works. I'll probably need to add a little bit more black, but it's better to have to add a little bit more black than to go too far, because it takes a ton of yellow to make it right again. But if you do go too far, remember you don't have to use all of this to mix with. You could just take part of it and start a new pile to add back the yellow. Let's see how that looks. I'm just going to go a titch bit more. I want it to be noticeably darker, but I don't want it to be almost black. Okay. So I'm going to paint in this shade part. Alright, so now I've painted one section. I've left the spots in between white for the words. I'm going to rinse out my brush, and like I said, I would probably do all the primaries first, but you don't have to. But I would definitely do the primaries and the secondaries before you do the tertiaries. So I'm going to do green now. So in order to make green, I need to mix yellow and blue. Always start with your lighter color, so I'm going to start with yellow. So I'm going to scoop some yellow here to make my green, and then take just from the edge of the blue so I'm not contaminating all of it. And you start with just a little bit of blue, and then you'll gradually add more. Since blue is such a darker color than yellow, it can quickly overpower it. We do have some color wheels available in the classroom that you can use to kind of compare your colors to. So you can be able to tell when you've gotten to a good green. Right now this is still yellow-green. Looks more yellow than green. Okay, still is. But again, I'm only adding blue a little bit at a time. Don't add a ton of blue and overdo it. And make sure you get it thoroughly mixed before you decide. And mix it in a way that it stays in the smallest pile possible. So bring in the paint from the edges towards the middle. Don't try and spread it out, or try not to let it spread out too much. All right, so I had to add blue several times there. But that's okay. I think I've gotten to a green that I like now. It doesn't look yellow-green. It doesn't look blue-green yet. So now I'm gonna go for my green spot. Even still as I paint it, I think it might still look a little yellowish. So I'll go back to adding a little more blue. Okay, try it again. That looks better. And sometimes it takes a little trial and error in actually painting it on to see if it's the color that you like. Okay, so again I'm going to make a tint with a little bit of my green. Take from the edge of my white. I didn't rinse out my brush. I need to mix it really well with what's in my brush so it doesn't turn out streaky. Okay, now I'll rinse my brush and erase that G to do my shade. So I'll get a little bit of green here and a little bit of black added to it. Once again, just a little black at a time, so I don't want to go too far with the shade. I think I can add a little bit more. See if that looks different. Looks a little different. I might add just a little bit more black though. Okay, so you can see that it's darker than the green, but not so dark that it looks black. All right, so we're gonna go over one more color here together, and then I'll turn you loose. So now I'm gonna do the yellow-green. So it'd be smart while I have green to do the yellow-green and the blue-green, since I have it here ready to mix with. So for yellow-green, now this spot of my palette has pretty much dried up, so I'm gonna mix it over here. I'm gonna start with yellow, and then I'm gonna add the green. Now, of course, if you ran out of green, you could just add a little bit of blue to your yellow, but just less blue, obviously, than you did to make the green. But if you have the green still, then it's just easier to use that, because then you know for sure that you're getting the yellow-green. And so you just kind of want to judge. You want something that's pretty well right in between the yellow and the green. I think that looks pretty good. So I'll do the same thing now, painting the normal color, tint, and then the shade. Okay, so now I'd go ahead and make the blue-green. I'd start with the green and add blue to it, paint that one, and then just continue working my way around until the whole wheel is painted.